The galaxy had long forgotten the name human. 300 years had passed since the Terran Purge, the war that ended Earth and every colony that carried its flag. To the alien races that ruled the stars now, humanity was nothing but a dark legend. Parents whispered the name human to scare their children. Soldiers wore the skull emblem of Earth's last army as a symbol of victory. But one cold night, deep in the Outer Rim, something impossible happened. A signal appeared. It was faint, distorted, and carried through an old Terran code no one had used for centuries, a short message repeating endlessly through the static. SOS. We are still here. The first to receive it was Captain Arwayan Sulika of the Valkyrie Dominion fleet. His ship, the Veilbreaker, was patrolling the dark edge of space, the dead sectors, places where no stars shone anymore. Arwayan frowned at the readings. His census officer, a young engineer named Vetra, turned pale. Captain, this frequency, it's human. The bridge went silent. Human? That couldn't be. Humanity was ash and dust. The Purge saw to that. Every file, every planet, every living trace had been erased. Even speaking their language was banned in some systems. Arwayan leaned forward in his command chair, his golden eyes narrowing. Are you certain? Yes, sir. The code structure matches pre-war Terran distress format. The message repeats every 4 to 2 seconds. He stared at the holographic projection of the signal's origin, a dark region where the star map showed nothing but radiation and silence. The grave expanse, a place where the final human fleet was supposedly destroyed. Arwayan hesitated. He was a soldier, not a believer in ghost stories. But command would want answers. Plot a course, he ordered. Let's find out who's calling from the grave. Hours later, the Veilbreaker entered the coordinates. There were no stars here, just endless blackness. The sensors flickered and glitched as if space itself resisted being seen. The crew spoke in whispers, as if afraid to disturb the silence. Vetra gasped. Captain, look at the star field. Arwayan turned to the viewport. The stars beyond looked wrong, slightly misplaced, as if someone had shifted them by invisible hands. Constellations were bent, distances warped. Gravitational distortion. Arwayan asked. Not possible, sir, Vetra said, her voice trembling. It's like space moved. Then the signal changed. The static cleared for a heartbeat, and a human voice broke through, male, old, and full of warning. Don't let them know we're awake. The bridge fell silent. Arwayan stood frozen. The voice sounded alive. Not ancient, not broken, alive now. Before anyone could respond, the signal cut out completely. Only silence remained. Trace that. Arwayan barked. Already on it. Vetra's fingers flew over her console. Signal source locked. But, Captain, it's not coming from a ship. Then where? She hesitated. From a planet. A planet that's not on any chart. Arwayan frowned. That's impossible. I thought so too, sir. But the readings don't lie. The Veilbreaker approached the coordinates. And there it was, a world cloaked in shadow, hanging against the void like a ghost. It had no reflected light, no atmosphere detectable from orbit, no thermal activity. Yet deep beneath its surface, faint power readings pulsed like a heartbeat. Arwayan watched the display. Activate orbital scanners. A shimmer appeared across the planet's surface, like light bending around glass. Captain, Vetra whispered, it's cloaked. That word chilled the crew more than the dark itself. Cloaking tech this powerful didn't exist. Not even the Dominion had achieved it at this scale. The ship's engines hummed lower as they entered a slow orbit. The crew stayed in silence. No one dared to speak, afraid that sound might awaken whatever slept below. Arwayan finally said, prepare a landing team. The shuttle touched down on the planet's surface in total silence. The ground was black glass, smooth and reflective, like it had been burned in an ancient fire. The sky was a void. No stars, no light, only darkness stretching forever. They walked toward a structure half buried in ash, a ruin shaped like a bunker, with the faded letters UNSC carved above the entrance. Vetra ran her scanner. Old Terran alloy. Still active power lines below. Ryan's heart beat faster. He could almost feel the air vibrating with energy. They forced the door open. Inside, the air was cold and metallic. Lights flickered weakly, casting long shadows across the corridor. At the end of the hall stood a control terminal, still running after 3 centuries. The screen flickered, and then words appeared. Project Lazarus, status, sleep mode. Vetra whispered, "What is Project Lazarus?" Before Ryan could answer, the lights brightened. The computer's voice, old, mechanical, and calm, spoke. "Welcome back, Commander Hayes. Humanity is ready to return." Ryan stepped back in shock. "Hayes? Who is?" Suddenly, the entire planet trembled. From deep below, massive energy signatures began to rise, like the pulse of something alive. "Captain!" Vetra shouted, "There's movement beneath us." Outside, the black surface began to crack. Faint blue light glowed from beneath, spreading like veins across the ground. The scanner screamed with warnings. "Something's powering up, an entire network." Ryan looked out through the cracked door and saw lights coming alive across the horizon. Towers, domes, and structures reawakening after centuries of silence. He whispered, almost to himself, "By the stars, they're still here." Then the terminal spoke again, clearer this time. Signal confirmed. Awakening sequence initiated. Humanity returning online. The planet shook again. The stars above twisted slightly, shifting into new positions, as if the universe itself was reacting. And Captain Ryan Soliker realized the truth too late. The signal wasn't a cry for help. It was a warning. Humanity hadn't died. They had been sleeping, waiting for the stars to shift. The tremors stopped. For a moment, there was only silence, the kind that feels heavy, as if the whole world is holding its breath. Captain Ryan Soliker stood at the entrance of the bunker, staring out at the black horizon. The once dead surface now pulsed faint blue beneath his boots. It was as if the planet had veins, glowing veins of light, carrying power to something deep below. His crew surrounded him, stunned. "Captain," said Vetra, her voice low. "These readings, this energy shouldn't exist. It's older than our empire, older than the Dominion itself." Ryan didn't reply. He couldn't. The moment the computer had spoken those words, "Humanity is ready to return," something inside him had shifted. The stories, the warnings, the tales told to frighten soldiers, suddenly they all felt real. He turned back to the terminal. The old machine still flickered, its cracked screen showing faint letters. Project Lazarus, sequence initiated. Phase 1, reactivation. The terminal's voice returned, calm and mechanical. Reactor course stable. Surface systems online. Awaiting command authorization. Authorization from who? Ryan muttered. The computer paused, then said a name that made his blood run cold. Commander Nathan Hayes. Vetra swallowed hard. So, that name was in the purge files. He led the final human fleet. Ryan nodded slowly. And he died 3 centuries ago. The computer said nothing else. The room grew darker as power shifted to somewhere deeper within the complex. Outside, the planet's sky shimmered, just for a second. The stars above bent, like they were being pulled by invisible strings. Vetra looked up and whispered, "Captain, are you seeing this?" "I am." "Then tell me I'm not going insane." "You are not," Ryan said, but his voice betrayed doubt. "Something is bending reality here." He turned to his team. "We're moving deeper inside. We need to know what this facility is." The hallway stretched into darkness. The deeper they went, the louder the hum of machines grew. Dust floated in the beam of their flashlights, undisturbed for centuries. Every few meters, they passed old Terran banners, faded, torn, but still recognizable. A blue circle with white stars. The emblem of Earth's United Nations Space Command. The crew stopped at a sealed door. Its metal frame was blackened by fire, but the lock lights were still blinking. Vetra plugged in her scanner. Power levels, stable. Whatever this place is, it's alive again. RYN watched as she typed in commands. The door hissed open with a deep metallic groan. Beyond it was a vast chamber, rows upon rows of glass pods filled with pale blue liquid. Hundreds of them, maybe thousands. Vetra's scanner beeped. Captain, these are cryogenic chambers. RYN stepped closer. Inside the glass, he could see faint shapes, humanoid forms, motionless. Humans, he whispered. They were hiding here. He touched the glass of one pod. The nameplate read, Haze, N, Status, Suspended Animation. Vetra gasped. That's him. Commander Nathan Hayes. RYN turned to her. Then this isn't a ruin. It's a tomb. Suddenly, alarms blared. Red lights flickered through the chamber. The computer's voice echoed from every direction. Unauthorized access detected. Awakening protocol interrupted. RYN drew his sidearm. What's happening? Captain, Vetra shouted. The system thinks we're intruders. Panels opened in the walls. Old Terran defense drones, covered in dust and age, came to life, their red optics glowing in the dark. Fall back. RYN yelled. Now! The crew ran between the pods as the drones began firing bright blue plasma. Bolts of light cut through the chamber, striking the floor and walls. The sound was deafening. RYN turned, fired back, and hit one of the drones. It exploded into sparks, but 3 more powered up in its place. The old human defenses were still deadly. They dug behind a fallen support beam. Vetra shouted over the chaos. If we can reach the main control, I can shut them down. Do it, RYN ordered. She sprinted toward the central console, sliding behind it as plasma blasts hit the wall beside her. Sparks rained over her hair. Her hands flew over the controls. The screen glowed red. She screamed. The system's locked. It needs the original commander's DNA. RYN cursed. We don't have it. Then, suddenly, the firing stopped. The drones froze mid-air. A deep voice echoed through the chamber, low, human, and alive. Stand down. They are not enemies. RYN and Vetra looked up. A figure was walking toward them through the mist of broken pods. A man, tall, scarred, dressed in old Terran armor that still glowed faint blue at the seams. His face was pale but calm, his eyes sharp and alive. Vetra's scanner beeped wildly. Captain, his vitals are real. He's human. The man stopped in front of them, lowering his rifle. Identify yourselves, he said in a cold voice. RYN, still stunned, answered. Captain RYN Solica, Valkyrie Dominion Fleet. We received your signal. The man's eyes narrowed. Signal. The SOS. From this planet. He frowned. That can't be. We were never supposed to wake up yet. Who are you? RYN asked. The man straightened. Commander Nathan Hayes, United Nations Space Command. Vetra stammered. That's impossible. You've been dead for 300 years. Hayes shook his head slowly. No, we entered Stasis only months ago. The stars, why do they look different? RYN looked at him sadly. Because it's not your time anymore, Commander. The stars shifted. The war is long over. Hayes looked up toward the ceiling. Through it, toward the changed constellations. His face hardened. No, he said quietly. The war isn't over. It just paused. He touched a panel on his arm, and the entire bunker rumbled to life. Outside, across the surface of the planet, towers began to rise, ancient metal spires breaking through the crust, glowing with Terran blue light. The computer's voice spoke again, loud and clear. Project Lazarus, Phase 2, Global Reawakening. RYN turned to Vetra, eyes wide. What did he just do? Hayes looked at them both. His voice was calm, but full of purpose. Humanity is coming back. And this time, we won't be the hunted. The planet shook for hours. From orbit, the Veilbreaker recorded bright blue cracks spreading across the surface, like lightning frozen into stone. Ancient Terran towers rose from beneath the ground, glowing with power that should have burned out centuries ago. Captain RYN Solica and his crew watched the display in silence. None of them spoke. None dared. Humanity, the race they had been taught was long dead, was moving again. Down in the ruins, Commander Nathan Hayes stood beneath one of the awakening spires. The light reflected off his armor, still bearing the faded emblem of Earth, a white circle with blue stars. His face was calm, but his eyes were storming with confusion. Vetra scanned the air. "Captain, radiation levels are climbing. Whatever these towers are doing, it's rewriting the atmosphere." Awayan turned to Hayes. "What is this? What are you activating?" Hayes looked at the glowing horizon. "It's a signal network, old Earth's defense array. It kept our colonies hidden from scanners. If you're seeing the towers, it means the cloak is falling." "The cloak?" Awayan repeated. Hayes nodded slowly. "Project Lazarus didn't just freeze people. It hid entire planets outside of normal space. That's why your stars look wrong. You're looking through time itself." Vetra frowned. "You mean this planet wasn't destroyed? It was shifted?" Hayes glanced at her. "Shifted? Yes. We called it a temporal veil. We built it when we realized the war was lost. The Dominion was too powerful. We needed time, centuries, if we had to. So we disappeared." Awayan's chest tightened. The idea was terrifying, that humans had not died, only waited. Hayes walked closer, his expression cold and focused. "Now tell me, who won the war?" Awayan hesitated. "The Dominion. The Valkyrie Empire rules the core systems. Humans are considered extinct." Hayes' jaw tightened. "Extinct," he repeated, as if testing the word. "That's what they told themselves. That's how they sleep at night." He stared out at the stars again. "How long did you say it's been?" 312 years, Vetra answered softly. Hayes didn't move for a long time. His face was blank, but his eyes told another story. Loss, disbelief, rage. Then he said quietly, "We weren't sleeping. We were preparing." In orbit, chaos was spreading. The ship's communications officer shouted, "Captain, multiple transmissions detected across the dead sectors, identical Terran codes. They're all coming online." Awayan's heart dropped. "How many?" "Dozens, maybe hundreds of signals, all waking up." Vetra turned toward Hayes. "What did you just do?" Hayes didn't answer. Instead, he raised his wrist terminal and entered a series of commands. The towers on the horizon pulsed brighter. Above them, the stars shimmered again, faint distortions rippling through the sky like heat waves. Awayan's ship reported, "Captain, we're detecting gravitational anomalies. Space is folding around the planet." Hayes spoke softly, almost to himself. "They thought destroying Earth would end us. They never understood. Earth was just the seed. Humanity learned to grow in the dark." Awayan stepped closer. "Commander Hayes, you don't understand the galaxy you're waking into. The Dominion isn't what it was. There are new powers now, coalitions, treaties. If you start another war, it'll burn everything." Hayes turned to him, his face unreadable. "You think this is about war?" He tapped the control on his wrist. "This is about survival. The moment that distress signal went out, your governments will come for this world, to bury us again." Vetra interrupted. "Wait, that signal. You said it shouldn't have activated yet. Who sent it?" Hayes looked down, his voice quiet. "Someone broke protocol. Someone woke us too soon." "Who?" Awayan asked. Hayes hesitated. "One of ours. Or maybe one of yours." The thought sent a chill through the group. A rumble shook the bunker again. Vetra checked her scanner and paled. "Captain, something massive is powering up underground." Hayes didn't look surprised. "That'll be the arc reactor. It's what kept us hidden, and it's what's going to bring the others back." "The others?" Awayan asked. Hayes' eyes gleamed in the blue light. Project Lazarus wasn't one planet. There were 7. The silence that followed felt endless. Then, from orbit, the Veilbreaker received new readings, 6 distant locations lighting up across the void, all sending the same message. Reactivation in progress. Humanity returning online. Awayan stayed at the transmission in disbelief. His waking an entire civilization. Down below, the ground cracked open near the horizon. Vast hangars began to rise from beneath the crust, sleek, ancient shapes of Terran warships, covered in dust but humming with new energy. Arwain took a step back. You have warships, hey? Hayes nodded. Every colony had a fleet. We built them before the end. The galaxy wanted us gone. We made sure we could come back. He looked up at the stars, the ghostly light flickering in his eyes. We gave the universe 3 centuries to forget us. Now we'll remind them who we are. Arwain felt his throat tighten. You're talking about vengeance. Hayes stared at him. No, Captain. I'm talking about balance. On the bridge of the Veilbreaker, alarms screamed. Captain, the communications officer shouted. We're being hailed. Arwain blinked. By who? The officer's hands trembled. By the Dominion High Command. They've detected human technology. They think we found a ghost fleet. Arwain looked at the screen and saw the incoming order. Eliminate all traces of human activity. No witnesses. He closed his eyes. Below him, Commander Hayes stood among the awakening machines of his people, unaware that an entire empire had just declared war on his resurrection. And above them, the stars shifted one last time, aligning into a new pattern that no one recognized. Something was returning to the galaxy. Something the universe thought was long dead. The ghosts of Earth were waking. The planet's surface had turned into light and thunder. Ancient Terran towers pulsed like beating hearts, feeding power into deep reactors buried under mountains of ash. From orbit, the Veilbreaker struggled to stay steady. Captain Arwain Sulliker's voice echoed through the comms. Report. I need a full status on the ground. Vetra's voice came through, strained and full of static. Captain, we're alive, but something's happening down here. The whole planet is waking up. Arwain gripped the console. Keep your position. I'm coming down. Minutes later, his shuttle descended through the dark clouds, lightning flashing all around. When the craft landed near the bunker, the ground was trembling, soft, rhythmic, almost like breathing. Arwain stepped out, his boots sinking into black dust. Vetra and her team waited outside the bunker entrance, weapons drawn but unsure what to point them at. And standing between them all was Commander Nathan Hayes, alive, human, and very aware of what was happening around him. The blue glow from the rising towers reflected off his armor, giving him an almost ghostly appearance. Arwain approached carefully. Commander Hayes, the Dominion has detected your activity. They've ordered me to erase this site. Hayes gave a small, bitter smile. Then you're already too late. The system's awake. Nothing can shut it down now. You don't understand, Arwain said. They'll send fleets. Armies. They'll burn this planet to glass again. Hayes looked at him with calm eyes. They already did that once. We survived. They walked deeper into the bunker again, into a wide command hall where the ancient Terran logo glowed above the control deck. The consoles were alive, displaying maps, ship logs, and encrypted messages written in old Earth code. Vetra watched in silence. She'd never seen technology like this, elegant, powerful, and far ahead of even Dominion science. Hayes moved through the controls like a man who had never left. His hands knew every switch, every screen. It was as if no time had passed at all. Arwain watched him closely. You said you went into stasis only months ago. Do you realize how long it's actually been? Hayes didn't look up. Your officer told me. 300 years. I still can't feel it. Arwain frowned. You don't seem surprised. Hayes stopped typing and finally turned to face him. I'm not. Time stopped for us when we entered the Veil. For me, it was just sleep and waking up. But for the galaxy, he gestured toward the ceiling. It kept moving. Vetra stepped forward. What exactly was Project Lazarus? Hayes sighed. Our last chance. When the Dominion broke through Mars, we knew Earth was next. The Council approved an operation to preserve our species. We hid 7 colonies in temporal fields, folded them outside of normal space, waiting until it was safe to return. Safe? Arwain asked. You call this safe? Hayes smiled faintly. No, I call this necessary. The computer beeped, interrupting them. Fleet link established. Awaiting orders. The screen filled with new signals, Terran ships activating all across the system. The fleet that was supposed to be dust was alive again. Arwayan's heart sank. You're waking warships. They are not for war, Hayes said. They are for protection. If your people find us first, they'll finish what they started. Vetra whispered. What if they already have? Hayes turned sharply. What do you mean? She pointed at the live feed from orbit. Several Dominion cruisers had already arrived. They were surrounding the Veilbreaker, weapons armed. They're here, Arwayan said quietly. Up in orbit, the Dominion commander's voice thundered over the channel. This is Admiral Kale of the Valkyrie Dominion. You are ordered to destroy the human installation immediately. No survivors. Arwayan closed his eyes. The order burned in his ears. Down below, Hayes watched the towers glow brighter, their power rising by the second. So that's it, he said softly. The galaxy still fears us. They don't understand you, Arwayan said. They think humans are monsters. Hayes turned toward him, his eyes sharp. And what do you think, Captain? Arwayan hesitated. I think you survived the impossible. That's not monstrous, that's terrifying. Hayes gave a dry laugh. Maybe that's the same thing. Suddenly, explosions lit up the sky above. The Dominion ships had begun firing orbital strikes. Each blast sent shockwaves through the ground. The old Terran shields flickered, struggling to hold. Vetra screamed, "They're going to break through." Hayes slammed his hand onto the console. Activate the defense grid. Outside, the ancient towers shifted, revealing long-barreled cannons powered by blue plasma. Beams of light shot upward, piercing the clouds. One Dominion ship exploded instantly. Another tried to flee, but its engines froze, seized by a digital attack. Hayes muttered under his breath, "Still works." Arwayan stared in disbelief. "You just hacked an entire fleet." Hayes didn't answer. His eyes were on the screens, watching the Dominion ships burn. When the last enemy vessel fell, the ground grew quiet again. Hayes turned to Arwayan. "Now you understand why they fear us. Humanity doesn't lose. We adapt. We wait. We return." Arwayan shook his head slowly. "You've been gone for 3 centuries. The galaxy you remember no longer exists. You could rebuild your people, find peace." Hayes interrupted. "Peace?" His voice darkened. "Peace died with Earth. The Council made sure of that." He walked toward the central display, where a holographic map of the galaxy appeared. He zoomed in on the Dominion's core worlds, glowing red. "These," he said quietly, "were the architects of our extinction. I'll make them remember what they tried to erase." Arwayan stepped in front of him. "If you go to war, millions will die, human or not." Hayes' expression softened for a moment. "Maybe you're right, Captain. But tell me, if your species had been hunted to the last child, wouldn't you fight back when you finally had the power?" Arwayan couldn't answer. The computer spoke again, breaking the silence. Long-range signal established. Project Lazarus, Phase 3, Awakening Remaining Colonies. Arwayan looked up at the hologram. 6 more signals appeared, far across the galaxy, each one pulsing with Terran light. Hayes stared at them like a man seeing home for the first time. "Phase 3, he whispered. "It's begun." He turned back to Arwayan. "You can go if you want. But when your people come for us again, tell them this time, humanity will be ready." Outside, the towers glowed brighter, like a sunrise made of blue fire. And far above, the Dominion's remaining ships fled into the dark, their captains whispering the name no one had dared speak for centuries. Human. The ghosts of Earth were no longer ghosts. They were awake. The galaxy trembled. Across dozens of star systems, long-dead satellites began to glow. Buried bunkers pulsed with light. Forgotten frequencies whispered the same message over and over again. Project Lazarus, Phase 3 initiated. The message spread faster than light. Dominion fleets scrambled, confused and afraid. For 3 centuries, humanity had been a ghost story, something to scare children, a warning from history. Now the ghost was back. Aboard the Veilbreaker, Captain Arwayan Solica stood at the viewing deck. The planet below still burned with blue light, its ancient Terran defenses humming quietly, ready to strike again. Vetra approached him slowly. "Is gone." Arwayan didn't turn. "Hayes." She nodded, took one of the shuttles, left before dawn. Awayan closed his eyes. He had expected it. The man who never died had no intention of staying buried. Where is he heading? Awayan asked. Unknown, Vetrus said. But the signal he sent before leaving, it bounced through 3 relays. Each one pointed toward an old Terran colony world. Awayan frowned, his waking the others. Down on the surface, the bunkers stood empty. Hayes had left behind nothing but activated systems and a trail of encrypted data. But the deeper archives, those that had been locked for centuries, had finally opened. Vetra's science team found them. Inside, thousands of cryopods rested in silence. At first, she thought they were empty. But when she wiped the frost from one of the glass lids, her breath caught. Inside was a child, small, motionless, but alive. Another pod held a woman. Another, a man. Hundreds, no, thousands, of them. Awayan, she said over comms, her voice shaking. You need to see this. Minutes later, the captain arrived. He stared at the rows of frozen bodies, humans preserved perfectly, untouched by time. My gods, he whispered. He wasn't lying. They really did survive. Vetra nodded. Not just survive. They are sleeping, waiting for him to wake them. Above the planet, chaos ruled the stars. Dominion intelligence channels were flooded with reports of Terran anomalies. Several governors demanded immediate retaliation. Admiral Kale, the same who had ordered the strike, stood in his command chamber surrounded by holographic maps. Every display blinked with red dots, each one a Terran activation site. How many are there? He demanded. An officer stammered. We've confirmed 6, sir. Possibly 7. Kale slammed his hand onto the console. 7. Of course. The 7 havens. We thought they were myths. He stared into the star field, eyes dark. Find them all, before they rise. Meanwhile, Nathan Hayes' shuttle cut through deep space. The hum of the engines was the only sound. His face was calm, almost peaceful, as he stared at the stars ahead. He whispered softly, they'll come for us again, just like before. He opened a small device, a holorecorder, old and cracked. A flickering image appeared, a young woman smiling, holding a child. Hayes touched the image gently. But this time, they'll find we're ready. He entered a command code, and the stars shifted. His shuttle disappeared into faster-than-light travel, leaving behind a fading echo of the old Terran anthem. Back aboard the Veilbreaker, Awayan and Vetra faced a hard choice. The Dominion wants us to destroy this site, Vetra said quietly. If we don't, they'll send someone else who will. Awayan nodded. I know. But if we obey, she continued, we'll be killing the last humans left. Silence hung between them. The low hum of the ancient machinery filled the room. Awayan finally said, I joined the Dominion to protect peace, not erase history. If we destroy this, we're no better than those who burned Earth. So what do? Awayan took a deep breath. We dissipate. We hide this planet's coordinates and report it as unstable. Let Hayes finish what he started. Vetra hesitated. That's treason. Awayan looked at her. So is genocide. Hours later, the Veilbreaker powered its jump engines. The ship rose silently from the planet's atmosphere, leaving behind the glowing blue world. But before they could enter hyperspace, a warning flashed on the main display. Incoming transmission, encrypted Terran code. Awayan frowned. Put it through. The hologram flickered, and Nathan Hayes appeared. His expression was serious, but his voice calm. Captain Sulliker, if you're receiving this, it means you chose not to destroy us. For that, you have my respect. Vetra whispered. He knew. Hayes continued. I won't ask for help. I know your people will call me a threat. But when the next storm comes, remember this. Humanity doesn't start wars. We end them. The message cut off. Awayan stood silent, staring at the empty hologram. Vetra asked softly, do you think he's right? Awayan's eyes stayed on the stars. I think the galaxy's about to find out. Across the galaxy, the other Terran colonies began to stir. One world's oceans boiled as energy fields rose from the depths. Another moon split open to reveal a buried shipyard, massive dreadnoughts sleeping under the rock. On a frozen planet, hidden bases powered on for the first time in centuries. Each world broadcast the same signal. Humanity returns. Dominion citizens panicked. Trade routes froze. News networks called it the Second Dawn. Admiral Kale stood before his fleet, watching the spreading chaos. His hands trembled as he whispered, "We should have left them buried." Far away, in the dark space between stars, Hayes watched the Terran beacons ignite one by one. For the first time in 300 years, the night sky looked alive again. He opened the holo of his family one last time, smiling faintly. "We're coming home," he whispered. The stars shifted. The forgotten were no longer forgotten. Humanity had returned. The stars were burning again. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy trembled, not because of war, but because of fear. The word was spreading everywhere. Humans were alive. And the Dominion, the rulers of half the known systems, could not allow that. Admiral Kale stood on the bridge of his flagship, Vanguard of Order, staring at the massive display before him. Across the screen, red lights pulsed, each one marking a Terran reactivation site. There were more now. 12. Maybe more hidden. "Mobilize the fleets," Kale ordered coldly. "I want every strike force on alert. If the ghosts of Earth think they can rise again, we'll remind them why they fell." His officers saluted, though fear glimmered in their eyes. Everyone had heard the stories, how a single Terran defense grid had destroyed 3 Dominion cruisers in seconds. Kale's voice hardened. "We will not fail again. Prepare Operation Eclipse." Meanwhile, deep in uncharted space, Commander Nathan Hayes stood aboard a Terran cruiser, the Alios Prime, one of the first ships reawakened from the Lazius fleets. Its hull gleamed like black glass, alive with flowing blue lights. Every system thrummed with power older than any living civilization. "Status report," Hayes said. "Cryobays 5 through 9 are stable," a technician replied. 200 more waking within the hour. Hayes nodded slowly. "Good. They'll need to see what the galaxy's become." He turned to the main viewport, where the stars stretched endlessly. He could feel it. War was coming. Not the kind fought for land or gold, but survival. He spoke quietly to himself. "They think we're relics. They are about to learn we're the future." Back on the Veilbreaker, Captain Arwayan Solica watched from a distance. His ship was hidden in a dust field, silently tracking the Terran cruiser. Vetra stood beside him, scanning the readings. "His fleet's growing," she said. "We've confirmed at least 3 other Lazius ships active now. He's forming an army." Arwayan sighed. "He's going to make them panic." Vetra looked up. "They already are. The Dominion Senate has declared full military lockdown. They are calling humans a species-level threat." Arwayan turned to her. "And you? What do you think?" She hesitated. "I think they are afraid of something they don't understand. And that's always dangerous." Far across the stars, Operation Eclipse began. Hundreds of Dominion ships jumped into human-controlled space. They struck without warning, bombarding one of the newly awakened colonies on the ice world of Nerian 4. The first shots hit the surface, splitting mountains, melting entire glacier. The human reactors went critical. Thousands of cryopods were lost. From orbit, Admiral Kale watched coldly. "Erase every trace of them," he said. "If one world falls, the rest will lose hope." But he was wrong. Hours later, as Dominion fleets celebrated their victory, a faint signal appeared on their sensors. It came from the ruins of Nerian 4. "To all Dominion forces, this is Commander Nathan Hayes." Every bridge fell silent. "You have committed murder against sleeping children. You burned our dead twice. For that, there will be no surrender." Suddenly, hundreds of red dots appeared around the fleet. Not missiles, but ships. Terran ships. "Impossible," one officer shouted. "We scanned this system." Hayes' voice echoed again. "You never learned. Humanity doesn't die easily." Then, light filled the stars. Terran railguns fired from behind asteroids. Pulse cannons tore through Dominion armor. AI-guided drones swarmed like angry hornets, slicing through destroyers and carriers alike. In minutes, Half the Dominion fleet was gone. The rest fled into hyperspace, their last transmissions filled with terror. Admiral Kale watched the feed in disbelief. His jaw clenched. They ambushed us. They were waiting. An officer trembled. So, reports confirm, it was Hayes himself leading the counterattack. Kale's voice turned sharp as a blade. Then I'll lead the next one. Prepare all fleets. I want his head. He turned toward the stars. If humanity wants a war, I'll give them extinction. Meanwhile, on Alios Prime, Hayes walked through the bridge, silent as the engines hummed. His officers cheered their victory, but he didn't smile. He stood before the main holomap, showing the Dominion's massive reach. For every world he freed, there were hundreds still under Dominion rule. "Commander," said one officer, "we've located the next Lazarus site. Coordinates locked." Hayes nodded. "Wake them. The time for hiding is over." Vetra's voice suddenly came over the comm channel, encrypted and nervous. "Hayes, it's RYN. The Dominion is mobilizing every fleet they have. You need to disappear before they—" He cut her off. "They've already tried to erase us. This time, we erase their fear." Vetra shouted, "You'll start a galaxy-wide war." Hayes paused, his tone calm but cold. "It's already started." The line went silent. At that moment, the stars around the Alios Prime shimmered. Dozens of Terran ships decloaked, huge carriers, dreadnoughts, and stealth destroyers rising from the void. The reborn Terran fleet assembled, their engines burning blue like 1,000 suns. Hayes stood before his officers. "This isn't revenge," he said. "This is remembrance. We fight not to destroy, but to make sure no one forgets who we are." He raised his hand. "Signal all colonies. Begin Phase 4. The Terran fleet jumped into hyperspace, vanishing into the stars, leaving behind only echoes of their ancient anthem. On the Dominion's homeworld, panic filled the Senate chambers. Holograms of burning fleets flashed across the walls. Leaders shouted over one another. One senator cried out, "They're ghosts. You can't fight ghosts." Admiral Kale slammed his fist. "They are not ghosts. They are human, and that makes them worse." He looked into the endless dark sky outside the chamber dome and whispered, "Find me Nathan Hayes, dead or alive." In the silence between galaxies, a voice repeated across old channels, faint, human, defiant. "We were forgotten, but we remember everything." And with that, humanity marched toward war.